name is Matt Burke, and after those 2 speeches I had to follow, and Father Barry, that's a very high bar that was set today. So first of all, I want to welcome all your beautiful faces, and thank you for coming out to celebrate our good friends Julie and John this weekend. This is by far the biggest crowd I've ever spoken in front of, so shout out to Miss Tipton and David Troll for getting me through high school speech class. So I haven't personally met most of you, but fortunately when I was a very young man, about 10 years old, I was lucky enough to meet John. I started going to school at IJP, which is a Catholic school we both went to. And if any of you guys have ever met John, you know that John has an uncanny ability to strike up a conversation with anybody in the world. He doesn't matter the situation, doesn't matter who it is, where it is, he can strike up a conversation and make friends with anybody. I do not believe he knows what the word awkward means, but we certainly do, John. But yeah, when I was young, John helped me, who was a very shy kid, who was afraid to talk to people, certainly afraid to talk in front of people like this, come out of my shell, and really meet a whole lot of new people. So, John, at various points in my life, has been a friend, a confidant, a therapist, a golf buddy. He started his career against me about 150-0. Beat me every single time we played, except the last time. 1-0 in the last one, so yeah. But in the end, he's also been a drinking buddy and a doctor to me. And one night in particular, he had to be both. So, let me set the stage. On a cold, rainy February evening, John, Jack, myself, a few others, known as the Mopes, as Jim so, eloquently put it last night. We decided what we usually did as young 20-somethings. We took a train to the town over to go to the tavern. Went to the tavern, had a few beers. The word few really, doing a whole lot of work there, for sure. And as the evening gets late, we begin to make plans to go home. And we all set back off for the train to return home, the last train home. Turns out we get there, we missed it. So we're stuck outside, it's a little cold, a little rainy, and John and Jack hatched a very, very smart plan. They decided that the freight train running by, they were gonna hop down and jump on the freight train. So doing what any good friend would do, I had decision making, and obviously I was not gonna let them do that by themselves without me being there. So I hopped down as well. And we hop on this, at the time, slow-moving freight train. There's little ladders on the side. We all get on there. Everything's going fine. But it turns out freight trains don't always stay as slow as they're going. They speed up very quickly. So we all realized very quickly, we should probably get off this thing. This doesn't seem very safe anymore. So, we all decide, now's the time to jump off. Jack and John do it. They jump off. Perfectly fine. Me, I jump off. I was not perfectly fine. Let's just say that. I landed on the gravel, rolled a few times. I thought I was going to do some type of Jason Bourne dive where I was going to roll. None of that happened. But I stand up, not feeling great at that point. Touch the back of my head, a lot of blood in my hand. But John, obviously, being the very reassuring, capable friend he is, reassures me by saying, it's just a head wound, they bleed a lot. And I was like, okay, I'm reassured at this point, that's great, we're fine. So we walk back to Jim and Nancy's place, and we get back there, and I look in the mirror, and it turns out I'm a little bit less than fine, just a tiny bit less than fine. So John, for not the first time in our young life, springs into action. He goes and raids his parents' liquor cabinet and finds the cheapest bottle of liquor that he can, which is not the first time we did that. And with the practiced hand of what can be described as a first-day med school student, he pours the cheap bottle of vodka over the back of my head. There you go. The wound is cleansed. It's taken care of. So after you clean the wound, you got to bandage it as well. And so his idea was, I'm going to take a bunch of paper towels and tape it to Matt's head with Band-Aids. Seemed great to me. After that, John's work was done that night. He retired to his quarters and left me thinking about how lucky I was to not only have a friend who was so gifted in architecture, also gifted in the medical science as well. And as all good stories end, we woke up and Jim the next day cooked us a nice breakfast. It was great. He did have some questions about what happened, but didn't tell him the truth at that time, but we did now. Yeah. But in all seriousness, I've been incredibly blessed to know John for over 2/3 of my life. He's absolutely my favorite person in the world, and his consistent friendship, companionship, and sense of humor have been maybe the most reliable influence in my life. He's been there for me when I'm at my highest, when I'm at my lowest, and he's always just been willing to listen and willing to hear what I have to say. You've always treated me like family, and Jim and Nancy, every time I come over, it feels like I'm part of the Mitros family, and I can't thank you enough for that. You've always been incredibly gracious and made me feel like family. And also, I was also blessed to meet Julie through John. The first time that Julie came down to Flossmoor, she rode the train down, to the bar as usual.
Not the freight
John introduced me, and I knew right away, like, she was incredibly kind, incredibly gracious to not only me, but more importantly, to John. She took John at face value. She didn't, try and change who he was. Occasionally, he needs a little bump here and there. We all do. But again, I'm incredibly happy to know you, Julie. You make the world a happier place. You're just an incredibly bright person. You've always been incredibly kind to me. And I cannot wait to see you guys go through this game of life together. And I cannot wait, to see what you guys do. And thank you to the Mitroses and Doggas for hosting us this evening. So if you guys could raise your glasses and toast the Mitroses and the Doggas, let's have ourselves a nice evening. Thank you.